All right, I think we're live. Now, what's the over under on how long it's going to take for it to freeze again?
Oh, there we were. We were live.
All right, yeah, everything looks good. I think we're solid now.
We think.
Sorry for the coughing. Like I said before, I'm still recovering from the flu, so. I gotta say, it looks very dark in your room with that camera.
Well, I kind of got the lights turned down a bit. I can brighten things up if that makes you feel any better. Or I could cut the overheads on.
Well, don't worry. I think when I show up there in a week or so, I'll fix your lighting for you.
Yeah. Bring me something that all I've got are the things you left behind. And so I've got those white umbrella
The ones that were
lighting
way
things.
too massive for me to properly use in my old office.
Yeah, and they're too big for here too. Every time I try to use them, they just get in the way.
We just need to get you some like smaller ones like I got in here now. Because I mean, mine
Right.
work out pretty well. I mean, the only problem I have is I got a little bit of a shadow back there, and your stuff would actually fix that. But I don't think anyone really gives a damn, to be honest, that there's a shadow of my chair there.
Well, it's not the only problem. The problem we have is this darn internet and stream. And so, on the other podcast I do, we have repeated trouble getting in on time, and it's rarely because we don't start on time. It's because of dealing with technical issues through the streaming software to get on.
Well, that's the good part. Like with at least with Streamlabs, I think for the most part I hope what we just did fixed it. Because what I think it is that with their new update they rolled out with the whole collab cam thing they have, I think that might have been the issue. Because in the past we've done the live streams with with the other summit page, and it worked out no problem back then. So I think that's all it really was to it. Because now that we're running it through Zoom for you, it seems to be working just fine. So we'll see.
We'll see if it lasts.
Yeah, we'll find out. If it drops off this time, we
It's
might take
probably
that as
the
a sign.
topics we cover. Our FBI monitors don't like what we're talking about. So
Hey,
it's just
you joke, but you've seen it happen where I can't title streams a certain way sometimes, or it won't
yeah.
let me go live.
Yep, you
It
can't go.
can be
What was the
crazy.
one? Was it the one about fatties? What was the one where it kept blocking you?
That was yeah. It was something about I think the way I titled it made it sound too insulting, I guess, because making fun of the fat people wanting free seats on airplanes, which what do you know they did eventually get, but and then I had the one that was about Pfizer, and that was the weirdest one. That was the first time it happened where it wouldn't let me start the stream if I had the word Pfizer and Veritas on there. So I had to change to O'Keefe and Big Pharma, and it let me go live after that.
You should have just gone with Pfizer and Kelsey, Mr. Pfizer himself. That would have worked out.
Yeah, but I want to make sure people knew what I was talking about. I feel like Big Pharma and O'Keefe, I think that worked out well. And now he has O'Keefe Media because Veritas got infiltrated. So, it worked out well. In fact, he actually just came out a report on the immigration issues about them flying them across the country. I haven't had time to go over all of it yet, but that might be something worth looking at next time.
Yeah, a lot of that got started with was it Ashley St. Clair seeing people seeing a plane full of a Delta flight full of immigrants coming in without having to provide any ID or anything,
When
and so that kind of led to a whole lot of things.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess while we're even bringing it up, why don't we just go and jump over to that story because right now, just in the month of December alone, 300,000. I love CBS News here. Migrants, right? Just call them illegals, right? Call them what they are. Call them illegal aliens. But 300,000 illegal immigrants came in December, the highest monthly tally ever on record. And here's the funny part. These are just the people who they found, who they
Right,
actually processed.
right. These are the ones we know.
Yeah, so how many people actually got in that we have no idea about at this point? And, don't forget, of course, once they get here, they depending on which state they go to, they can actually vote in local elections, as well as, of course, get tons of amenities provided to them by the taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, well, and California's adding even more. And so what one of the mayors from one of the Southern California towns was on the news this morning talking about the problems that they're having. They're seeing the increase. Now, can you imagine that they saw an increase immediately after it was broadly announced worldwide that they were going to increase benefits for people crossing into California? Amazing how that works.
Yeah, when you offer people free crap, people tend to go there. What do you know, right?
Yeah, and things, and we'll discuss things from a liberty and certain things like that is.
Oh, hey, your audio is cutting out for some reason. Your audio there? Yep, I think we lost your audio.
There we go. That should be back to good.
Okay, yep, that's good now.
Yeah, I saw it pop up on the screen that it was trying to switch mics on me. I cut since you've got it this way, this is a lot better because I can see the screen here and I don't have to look all the way over here to the bigger screen. And so I cut that one off, and when I cut that one off, it was started to rearrange some things on the computer. But that's all good. But yeah, so what were we talking about there? We were talking about the folks coming across into Cal. Oh, UBI. I said that we'll discuss issues like that are people like Milton Friedman would talk about. And I'm a big Milton Friedman fan. I got you to read Free to Choose when you were too young to read it. And and he talks about it, but what he says, he goes, the only way something like that works is if you get rid of all the other freebies and all the other programs that are out there and let that be your source.
So what I will say is, though, like in a perfect world scenario, like I definitely would agree with that, except for the fact of UBI does have also one other problem to it that I don't feel anyone ever likes to talk about, and that is the fact of how easy does it then become to bribe your voters at that point, right? Hey, I'm going to increase UBI by $200. Well, I'm going to increase it by $400, and you just have a bidding war.
I'm just going to pay off all of your school debt. I mean, the government right now is completely set up to bribe voters, and it has been for far too long.
I mean, what? I mean, really, ever since it's why I still think that if you're taking benefits from the government, you should probably just not be allowed to vote. It'll be the easiest way to stop bribery to get votes at that point. But let's face it, the government will never do that because how dare we? We can never take away the right to vote from someone. Of course, they're trying to give the rights to votes to illegal immigrants now because of that same logic.
Well, and the leftists arguing on that as well. That means people with Social Security can't vote, forgetting the fact that was their money that was stolen from them.
Yes, we can make an exception for Social Security because it was their money in the first place.
Give them the right to vote.
I mean, it is the biggest pyramid scheme ever in world history, I think, at this point. But
no, it's not a pyramid scheme. It's a social contract. Don't you understand? It's a social contract.
It's a multi-level marketing corporation,
It just requires people to continue working to pay for the folks that are no longer working and keep funding the program from the bottom up, but it's not a pyramid.
It's not a pyramid scheme until they go, hey, we have to allow illegal immigrants in because they pay into Social Security so older people can get their money.
But man, we got, as supposedly free people, we got nobody to blame but ourselves for this, because every time there's something hard in the life of America, we say, well, I'm going to let somebody else fix it for me, and I'll go to the most corrupt, inept, worst possible option, the government, to fix it. So retirement is hard. It's hard to save for that. Let's just let the government do it.
Well, here's the thing, is retirement was never even really supposed to be a thing as we know it. What was supposed to happen was that, for the most part, when you hit the age of retirement, it was supposed to be like me and obviously my sister's obligation to take care of you. That was how it's supposed to be in our world, actually. It's not supposed to be that you set this massive retirement thing. It's supposed to be that you have a bunch of kids, and then they can take care of you in the same way you took care of them.
Well, and the way it was supposed to work is, as soon as I got on Social Security, I'm only going to make it a couple of years and then kick the bucket. That's how it worked. The onset of good hygiene and cleanliness and clean water and all the things that led to longer life. We'll throw a little bit of pharma in there, but some of those other things had a much bigger impact, in my humble opinion. But once that happened and people are now living so much longer, it's just not a viable program. Well, but we got on that because we got way off track from immigration. But if they're going to come in and suck up resources, do you really think Social Security is safe? Do you really think Medicare is safe? We just hit $37 trillion in debt, at the highest it's ever been.
I still remember back when we hit
any of this safe?
I remember when we hit like 10 trillion like I think it was like during the end of Bush, and people were freaking out about it and all this stuff. And now here we are, well over 30, approaching 40, and no one gives a damn. Not a single person cares. We've given up on it, right? And to be honest, how can you not give up on it? Because there is no real solution to it, right? I mean,
the one person in Washington that cares is Thomas Massey, and he's got one lone voice in the wilderness fighting. He's like Don Quixote at this point, tilting at windmills.
I mean,
but
I really hate to say it, but there is no solution to the debt besides a world war at this point. I really don't think there is, right? Like a world war with the people who we owe money to, and then as part of, the surrender agreement with them would have to be you don't call in, you're part of the debt, basically. I don't see any other solution to it. Like, there's no way, even if we got all of our finances in order, it would be impossible for us ever to pay off that massive amount of a debt. It cannot be done.
You don't think Americans are ready to submit to some austerity plan of cutting back?
Even if they were, it couldn't be done. That's the problem at this point. We could actually cut down everything appropriately, have a low corporate tax, business could explode. And no matter how great our economy is, no matter how much cuts we make to government, it would be nearly impossible to ever make a sizable dent on a debt that large, especially when we pay interest on it. We have to file for bankruptcy, basically. And I don't even know how it's going to work on a countrywide level when we're, of course, a world power. And I use that in quotation marks because, to be honest, I don't think we're nearly as powerful as we think we are, because the only reason we have this sort of power is strictly because of our military at this point. We don't really have any real influence anymore. And nor should we. I mean, it's like the person down the road who's massively in debt, who can't afford to feed his family because of it, going up to you and telling you how you should live your life. Why should you listen to them? And that's us. We are massively in debt. Our people are just being beaten day in and day out. And we're going to other countries telling them, hey, here's how you should run things, when we clearly have no clue how things should be run anymore.
Yeah, well,
little off topic, but I mean, still.
Well, not really, because the influx of immigrants and the fact that we are paying a lot and that a lot of these services are going to go on, it's not a sustainable model. And the other thing that's not sustainable right now, when you look at Social Security and other things that we want to continue, supposedly, we have a birth rate that's not going to support it.
No,
the population danger is not too many that the leftists want to tell us about. It's far too few.
So, Elon Musk,
but it's not a great replacement, James. Don't say that
it's not a great replacement until Joe Biden comes out directly and just says, oh, white Europeans will be the minority later on, and that's such a great thing. Yet there's no replacement at all happening. Yeah, and I love this fact, because whenever you even bring it up, the first thing is, oh, it doesn't exist. And then you prove that it does exist. And then they jump to the, oh, well, is it really that bad of a thing? Why do you care?
Right.
And here's the thing, it's not a
bug. It's not a bug. It's a feature.
Really. Right? Like,
it's not a bug. It's a feature. This is what they want.
Do what?
I said it's not a bug. It's a feature. It's part of the plan.
Yes. And here's the thing, we don't really care about the whole race aspect exactly. Like, if a black person came from England with good, English culture and with good Western cultural values, we would accept that person and no problem, way faster than you would accept, some white dude living in, South America who wants to bring over socialism, right? We don't really care too much about the whole race aspect, but there is a factor of when you're going to these countries in South America and pulling this many immigrants in, they bring up their culture with them. What destroyed their country was their culture and their values, and that is what we're now importing into our country.
Yeah, we got friends in South Texas, and and they're all of Mexican descent. The thing I love about them is they're way more conservative than I am, man. They hate what's going on, and they'll speak out too, and so. You look at Florida, what happened with the Hispanic vote in Florida. The leftists really think that this is going to turn everything on its head for voting and everything else. And maybe it will, maybe it won't. But my man Ron DeSantis proved that a Republican can win the Hispanic vote.
Well, and here's the thing is, one thing that we have to really do is, I think, really, I mean, I don't normally like doing this, but we have to hit the religious angle with them, because for the most part, a lot of them are Catholics. And traditional Catholicism is actually one of the fastest growing religions right now in the country. And to be honest, it's probably more to do with the fact of how many immigrants are coming into the country. Now,
So this
unfortunately,
wasn't so before you go too far, this wasn't on your list. But what's the deal with canceling so many traditional Latin masses across? The current pope is of the devil, man. The current pope is not of Christ at all.
I mean,
I'm convinced that he's a horrible thing for Catholicism and for Christianity worldwide. I do not like the current pope at all.
well, I mean, obviously we don't like the current pope or would be Catholic, but
Well,
No,
there's some that you can respect. You can respect them and the things that they've done and
oh,
the good that
100%.
they've done. But
And like,
this dude, man, this dude is off the charts leftist. It's
well,
just
did he come from South America too? I'm like coughing left and right here, but it's what happens when I start yelling now, right after getting off a flu.
Yeah, the tea isn't working. You need to switch to bourbon. That'll fix it.
I mean, I still got some muscadine wine that I never finished. Is this supposed to be refrigerated? I don't know. I left it up here and I never refrigerated it.
Yeah, it's going to be double fermented at this point.
Well, I mean, we got some rum from our cruise. People are going to think like I'm alcoholic up here, but no, as I just don't keep any of it downstairs is all. That's all it is. That's like all I got to. I got nothing else.
And you obviously don't own a liquor cabinet.
No, but I do have some like really nice decanters up there, but they're completely empty. And now they can't even be seen, but but no, so I think actually the new pope, he did come from South America though, right?
I don't remember. I don't want to say the wrong thing. all I know is I don't like the dude. I think he's of Satan.
Well, I mean, really so many churches have completely fallen at this point. And actually I did have a story about a church that I was going to pull up here. So this is over here in, the UK churches. The UK churches have become woke as hell, right? And no pun intended by that either. But they've become woke as can be. They have trans people serving as like, I'm not sure what their version of, I guess it might be a deacon. I'm not sure exactly, but the English have their own kind of church to it. But the Methodist Church in the UK has now a whole inclusive language guidelines that won't let you say things like father or mother or brother or sister or husband or wife or any of that stuff during their services. So over here, the Christian Post reports that the guides list extensive categories of which the Methodists are advised to use sensitive and inclusive language when addressing minorities that may have been marginalized or demonized by common culture. The guy notes that as Christians, we have to have courage for conversation that can sometimes be difficult, and which I love that because they say we have to have these difficult conversations by just capitulating everything because we're afraid to insult anyone, which to me is always funny. But it goes on.
Yeah, the capitulations are always one side. As long as one side capitulates, then they're all happy with it.
So here's one thing it says. It adds that the words parent, partner, and child are a good place to start. Carer is a neutral yet understandable way to refer to a primary carer of a child that may or may not be their parent, not mother or father. So you can't use mother or father, and it goes on to say language such as brother and sister, while intended to be inclusive and friendly, doesn't take into account our non-binary friends.
Well, I'm totally offended. What about the furries? Where's their inclusivity in this language?
Hey, technically, New York protects furries. If someone, technically, according to the law, if someone wanted to go into work as a furry, whatever they call themselves, and dress up in the full fur costumes, technically that is protected in New York now. Because gender expression of any kind is technically listed as just being protected altogether, which means you could go into work you could dress as a pirate and say your pirate gender, and technically they would have to allow it in your work. And they couldn't tell you not to dress like a pirate either, because in the law, it actually states that your gender expression through the way you dress is also protected. So obviously you have the rule that, if a judge wants to laugh it out of court, technically they can, despite what the law says. But tell me that someone going to work dressed like a pirate is any more ridiculous than someone going to work dressed as a woman. I just, Really.
No, I have no argument for you. Cosplay is cosplay, whether you're dressed up as some anime creature or a man dressing like a woman.
And
It's all
as
cosplay.
someone who is a big nerd who's gone to multiple Comic Cons, who actually really enjoys stuff like cosplay and everything, there's a time and place for it all. But people have taken that crap way too far now, because there are people trying to push to be allowed to do some of that stuff in their place of business and work and different things like that, and it's just nuts. Like
Well, it's become its own. It's become leftism is a religion. Leftism is a religion, whether they want to admit it or not, and it's a religion that's not from source. And so the good news as a Christian for me is the battle that matters Jesus already won, and it's just up to us to stand up to this foolishness and do the best we can to love everyone while not loving the sin and the wrong that we see. It's not always easy.
Yeah, I just got the notice saying that apparently there's 10 minutes remaining in the Zoom call. So I forgot that Zoom now doesn't do unlimited Zoom calls.
Well, mine does. If we should have set this up on mine, but I don't know how to set up the screen the way you've got yours set up.
Oh no, you wouldn't have to. As long as yours is set up, I can actually just pull your screen right over.
Okay.
I didn't even think about that. We can go till this thing.
You're just cheap using the free version. I actually pay for my Zoom.
You know what? I pay for the streaming software. Thank you.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, we'll at least go ahead and finish up this story before we even think about switching all that over. But it continues to go on saying it actually encourages congregations to share your own pronouns in conversation, which is absolutely silly, because when would I ever use your pronoun while talking directly to you in the first place? It's something that you refer to someone normally outside of the conversation, so that's kind of ridiculous. But they also direct them to radical leftist LGBTQ plus activist groups, including Stonewall, GLAAD, as well as a TikTok trans activist, Jeffrey Marsh, who was recently accused of sexually grooming children.
Well, and that dude is truly a freak, man.
Yes.
And again, I do my best to love everyone, but we cannot stand by and let this type of a freak who is literally grooming children for God knows what. We can't stand by quiet as these things are going on.
So for people who might not understand, this dude literally has a TikTok where his main thing is he gets kids to message him directly so he can find ways to tell them how to avoid your parents, how to get away from your parents. And he continually talks about his TikTok of how he tries to make sure parents don't find out about him and things. I mean, absolutely insane crap. I mean, I don't even know how it's even remotely legal. I make a joke about fat people and my TikTok gets like suspended for like a week. He's
you tell the truth. You tell the truth about somebody filling out your ballot and voting, yep. And you get banned for saying the truth of what happened with your own ballot in the voting booth.
Someone voted as me, and I had to go through the process of overriding that vote. And the hell if I know if it actually worked, obviously. And that gets banned on TikTok. The year prior, or the election prior to that, they gave me someone else's ballot because we don't have voter, or I said at that point we didn't have voter ID laws in the state. And I said that, and what do you know? YouTube suspended the channel for like a week.
But yeah, this
guy can be on here literally telling children,
and mutilate minors.
Yes, this person, he had a whole thing where he was telling minors, if you can't get a hold of stuff like estrogen, here's other drugs you can buy over the counter that can have a similar effect. He's literally telling children how to mutilate themselves and castrate themselves without their parents knowing, and he is allowed to be on TikTok. And of course YouTube and all of that too, but primarily TikTok, which, mind you, the average age of TikTok users are under the age of 18 anyway.
Well, Lord knows we don't want to offend the freak.
Yes, but the worst part is not only are they defending him, they're actively encouraging people to seek him out. And this is a church. This is the Methodist Church, which I do find funny because I do know someone who, I'll try to be, somewhat vague about it, but I knew someone when I was younger who I used to hang out with every now and again. His father was actually very heavily involved in the Methodist Church. And what do you know? That guy who I used to know, well, he's no longer a guy. So
Well,
There-
well, I mean, the church here, the Methodist church here, did go through its big split over these types of issues. Obviously, we know which side the UK Methodists fell onto, at least this version.
The worst part is in the UK, it's really not just even the Methodist church. Like if you have a lot of the Anglican churches have also started doing crap like this, where they they stopped referring to God as the Father because that was insulting towards women. I mean, just stupid things. And they had a whole gay pride rally at one church over there as well. UK, I mean, UK has fallen, right? I mean, UK is done. I do not know how they saved themselves over there without things getting really terrible and violent. And that is sad to say because I hate it. Like I don't want to come across like I'm encouraging like, yeah, they need to rile up and do all that. I would rather them find a peaceful solution. I just don't know where one is. Like I really don't. London is now minority English. All right, just to put that in perspective here. London is minority English. It is insane over there at this point. And like I think was the most common name in Scotland now for birth names was Muhammad. In Scotland. Might have been Ireland, actually. I think it was Ireland, not Scotland. But still, major issues. And people want to sit there and keep saying, oh, what does it matter? All people are equal and the same. You're right. People at their souls are equal. People with their cultures are not. Some cultures are very good, like Western culture. Some cultures are barbaric and Stone Age-ish, like most of the Middle East, or most of South America, or a good portion of Asia, which is still communist, right? So some cultures good, some cultures bad. We don't exactly hate the individuals when it comes to who they are deep down at their very soul, but we do hate their values that they bring over, which is why we cannot have, and we're going right back to the immigration thing, but that's why you cannot have these people coming over to the country en masse, legal or otherwise. It does not matter.
Well, some of this goes both ways. You were talking earlier about U.S. losing our influence throughout the world. Well, the values that we're exporting are horrible in many ways to the rest of the world. And so we're not exactly stepping up and leading in a good, clear way that we should be. And there's a lot of work to be done. And my belief, I believe we are spiritual beings who just happen to be living here for a very small time in a physical plane and a physical body. I think we all need to spend way more time on the spiritual aspect of ourselves and this world. And that's the only way we're going to fix any of these problems that are going on. It's more of a soul, more of a spiritual problem we're up against right now than even a cultural problem.
Well, I mean, 100%. I mean, the amount of people in my generation, especially, who turned away from like any bit of religion whatsoever, and you see what's happened to them, right? You see how much, mental illness is affecting them. And a lot of them have this idea, of course, that mental illness, oh, you're just born with it. And sometimes that can be the case, right? There's some mental illnesses that you're probably born with. But we can easily see a lot of it is just self-inflicted by the way you choose to live your life and just your general perception of the world around you.
A lot of it comes from this,
yes.
and immersing yourself in a culture that's going to tell you that you are your own savior, a culture that's going to tell you that all these other things other than what's really most important inside of you is what matters, a culture that's going to tell you to pursue the flesh and the things of the world and not the things of the spirit. And man, you start following all that, what you find out is a very empty life. It's why you got millionaires who kill themselves, because it's just not fulfilling anymore. It's why you see people constantly just going and never quite getting to what it is they're looking for, because they haven't spent that time to figure out what's really important. The last time we talked about this, we talked about finding a purpose and living into the purpose. And we had a couple of comments that were like, oh, there's no such thing as a purpose. We're just here for this short period of time to do the best we can. I can't choose to live like that. I think we've got to turn this world on its ear and turn people away from pursuit of worldly, fleshly things and turn to a more purposeful pursuit.
So real quick,
it's a deep topic, dude. It's a deep topic. We just lost all of our political viewers because we went into politics.
Well, real quick, Charles just commented saying anyone know the timestamp when we mentioned the names on the list. So the stream crashed, so I think there should still be some of it pulled up on the first portion of the stream because unfortunately it crashed right when we were talking about it. What do you know?
So let's go real quick. Clinton, Gore, Louis Freeh, the former FBI director, Oprah, Chris Tucker, Jimmy
Stephen
Kimmel
Hawking.
was, and that was the cherry on top. Stephen Hawking in a underage orgy. That was probably the one that shocked us the most, at least.
It was really crazy. Also, David Copperfield. I don't know why that one still gets me. I think it's because I've actually met the guy and I just got a chance to like shake his hand, and I think that he was over on the island doing all this is just kind of like, it's depressing, but at the same time, like, you know, if you have to laugh at it, all right? You can't help but laugh at it. You hear the fact that Stephen Hawking was attending orgies, like, I mean, how do you not chuckle? I don't know. And that was the time out of the Zoom call I had with him. We made a mistake when we set up the Zoom call and accidentally set it up on the free version. So he just popped right out. So he'll be back in a minute. But yeah, so the names on the list, we had it on before, and what do you know, right when we were talking about it, this stream went down. Somehow don't surprise you. I don't know. I feel like Hawking is surprising. I mean, if anything, like, I know what he did is terrible. If he was having, you know, underage orgies with these women and stuff like that, that's awful, terrible, evil. However, for Stephen Hawking, I mean, that's almost a little impressive. Like, I don't know. Just saying. Give me one moment. We're going to try to get him back in the stream. So I'm going to set a countdown real quick, and we're going to try to get him back on the stream here. All right, so I think we're just going to go ahead and end it there because we've been having a lot of tech problems for some reason. I think we got it finally sorted, so we'll actually see going into the future whether this new system of how we're handling it will actually work out. I think it might. I think it will. I think it will. Either way, thanks for anyone who's popped in and watching. Thanks, Charles, for commenting, and we'll see you next Wednesday, probably around 9 o'clock. Peace.